North Korea has yet again fired a short-range missile towards the sea off its east coast. The missile was launched from the central north province of Jagang just hours after its United Nations envoy defended the right to test missiles at the United Nations General Assembly. Now, Ambassador Kim Song, in his address to the UNGA, said North Korea had the right to develop, test, manufacture and possess weapon systems equivalent to those of the South and its U.S. ally.
미국이 무긴 기호 밑에 첨단 무기 개발에 요를 올리고 있고 수많은 전쟁 장비들을 남조선에 반입하고 있는 것도 조선 반도의 군사적 균형을 깨뜨리는 매우 위험천만한 행위입니다. 미국과 미국 남조선 군사동맹이 우리를 겨냥한 군사적 위협을 가중시키는 조건에서 우리가 그들이 보유하고 있거나 개발하고 있는 것과 동등한 무기 체계를 개발, 시험, 제작, 보유하는 것은 그 누구도 부정할 수 없는 정당한 권리입니다.
Now, according to the Japanese Defense Ministry, the missile appeared to be a ballistic missile. South Korea's President Moon Jae-in ordered aides to conduct a detailed analysis of the North's moves and devise a response.
本日早朝、北朝鮮が弾道ミサイルの可能性のあるものを発射をいたしました。この事態を受け、私より情報収集、分析に全力を挙げ、国民に対し迅速的確な情報提供を行うこと、航空機、船舶などの安全を確認すること、不測の事態に備えて万全の態勢を取ること、こうした点を指示をいたしました。
And for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Robert Edwin Kelly, who is an American political analyst on inter-Korean affairs. He's joining us from Busan. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Now, in his address to the UNGA, Kim Song asserted that North Korea had a right to develop, test, manufacture and possess weapon systems equivalent to its allies. How do you assess these statements?
Yeah, I mean, the North Koreans have said for a long time that they have a sovereign right to develop weapons of mass destruction. I suppose in a very sort of super strict sense that's true, right? I mean, North Korea can really do whatever it wants. It's sovereign. I mean, we can't really stop it, I suppose, barring invading the country. That said, that if North Korea submits itself to any kind of international law remote, then they would, in fact, not only by a very rigorous understanding of international politics.
Now, North Korea has yet again fired a short-range missile towards the sea of its east coast. We seem to be having a problem with that line. We will get Dr. Robert Edwin Kelly back again. For now, just to let our viewers know, North Korea has yet again fired a short-range missile towards the sea off its east coast. The missile was launched from the central north province of Gangneung just hours after its United Nations envoy defended the right to test missiles in the United Nations General Assembly. That was Ambassador Kim Song in his address to the UNGA. He said that North Korea had the right to develop, test, manufacture and process weapon systems equivalent to those of the South and its U.S. ally. According to the Japanese Defense Ministry, the missile that was launched off the east coast appeared to be a ballistic missile. South Korea's President Moon Jae-in has now ordered aides to conduct a detailed analysis. We are once again being joined by Dr. Robert Edwin Kelly. Sir, can you hear me?
I can this time. Sorry, I'm not sure what happened.
All right. Now, sir, my next question to you is, we've heard of reports of the short-range missile towards the sea of its east coast, and as per the President Moon Jae-in and has now ordered a response for the same. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the North Koreans have been increasingly developed missile technology in order to get around the conventional advantage that North Korea has, that South Korea has, right? And South Korea is much larger than North Korea. Its economy is much larger, its military is much more modern. And so the North Koreans have increasingly looked for missiles as a way to get around this South Korean conventional advantage. The South Koreans have been pushing the American ally, South Korea's American ally, to let them respond in kind. The U.S. has sort of tried to get South Korea not to build lots and lots of missiles to avoid sparking an arms race. with the North Koreans, but the North Koreans don't seem to be listening. And so the U.S. has basically sort of said to South Korea, if you want to build in kind, you can. And so now what you're getting is an arms race, right? The North Koreans launched, and the South Koreans want to counter launch. And that's what everybody's worried about, right? That this will sort of spin out of control.
Right. Dr. Kelly, earlier I was asking you about North Korea's statement at the UNGA. If you could just go over that once again for us.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the North Koreans have said for a long time that they have a sovereign right to develop weapons of mass destruction. They've been saying this since the 1990s. And in a very strict way, this is true, right? I mean, if they want to build weapons, there's not much we can do about it. I mean, we're not going to invade North Korea and provoke a war. But the UN has also, the UN Security Council, as you mentioned in the report, the UN Security Council has told North Korea many times not to develop these weapons, right? And North Korea is under heavy sanction, in fact, for doing this, right? So, I mean, if the North Koreans want to participate in the international community at all, that would mean listening to the UN, the most basic sort of element of the UN, and that would be the Security Council, and they don't. And this is why North Korea is so badly isolated, because they just don't listen at all, right? I mean, the UN has asked them for 25 years not to do this, and they just do it anyway.
Absolutely. So I was just going to come to that. Now, we know that North Korea's launches, as you also mentioned, have been condemned. The US has called it a threat to Pyongyang's neighbors and the international community. Could you spell that out for us? How do you see this impacting the denuclearization talks, which have been on hold for a while now?
That's right. I mean, the more the North Koreans launch, the harder it becomes for the countries around North Korea to come and negotiate with it, right? Because it looks like they're negotiating under threat. And I think that's what the North Koreans want to do, right? The North Koreans are trying to sort of bludgeon the United States back to the table by continuing to launch. If the North Koreans did another nuclear test, that would be sort of the same thing. They're trying to sort of shove us back. But, you know, on the other hand, this kind of behavior accelerates or advantages hawks in these other countries, right? In Japan, in the United States, even in China, right? And we know the Chinese don't really want the North Koreans doing this either. So the more the North Koreans launch like this, I mean, the more that I think, the harder they make it for the Biden administration, for the new Japanese government to come to the table and talk to the North Koreans, because then it looks like they're knuckling under the Koreans, and nobody wants that. It doesn't really change the South Korean strategic situation very much. South Korea has been under threat from North Korea for a long time. But the more missiles there are, the more it brings into play other countries, most especially Japan and the U.S.
Right, and now with their blatant show of strength, Kim Yo-jong had even suggested earlier the possibility of an inter-Korean summit. What are the prospects of that?
They're low. Moon Jae-in, the current president of South Korea, is out of office in about 6 months, and he desperately, I don't know if desperately is the right word, but he really wants a summit because he's sort of bet his presidency on a breakthrough with North Korea. But there have been 3 so far, and none of them really returned very much, in part because the primary interest for the North Koreans is negotiating with the Americans. That's what they really want. That's why the meeting with Donald Trump was so important a few years ago. So even if it happens, which would sort of require a lot of movement on the South Korean side, I'm not really sure it would do very much. And in South Korea, Moon Jae-in is sort of lame duck. You know, he's out of office in 6 months. If he were to push through a summit, I'm not really sure how well it would go with the Biden administration. I'm not really sure how well South Korean voters would like it. I mean, it's possible, but the last 3 summits didn't do very much, so I'm not really sure how much value that would have at this point.
All right, Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast and your insights on this.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.